Down the European playoffs, reveal the summer's all-pro team, and give you the TLDR on 4.13. So strap yourselves in because the LCS preview show starts right now.
And the ultimate outpower from Max Reign. Fnatic with that victory seal up their second position here. Now the Cocoon, oh, perfect Pixel placement. Alliance are top of the European League of Legends Championship Series. The minions might stop Reckless from getting his record. He needs 2 more kills. There's another one. He needs 1 more. The minions have killed it. He misses it by 1 kill.
1 kill is the difference.
Hello and welcome to the LCS preview show. I'm Rivington Bisson III along with Joshua Jat Leesman, and this week it's an all-European special as the summer playoffs begin over in Cologne in just half an hour.
Das ist richtig, Riv.
When did you learn to speak German?
I definitely did not, but I did learn 3 words for our global audience out there, maybe. I'm just doing my part. Maybe you should too.
Right. Well, when we need to broadcast the show in Pig Latin, I'm all say. Yeah, you know what that means. Yeah. Speaking of Worlds, on Tuesday, Riot announced the format and schedule for this year's World Championship. First up, it's the group stage, where the 16 teams will be divided into 4 groups of 4, with 8 teams playing in Taiwan and 8 teams playing in Singapore. Each team will play 6 games with the top 2 from each group advancing to the quarterfinals.
And those 8 teams will then travel to Busan, Korea, where the bracket phase of the tournament begins on October 3rd.
That's right, and the winners of the quarterfinals will then make the trip to Seoul, where this year's semis will take place on October 11th and 12th.
And finally, the 2014 World Champion will be crowned on October 19th in Seoul Sangam Stadium, and that should be amazing. But for more information, including what time and date all the 2014 World Championship games are being broadcast in your local time zone, head over to lolesports.com.
I'm pretty excited. It's just a little bit of ways. But now, before we dive into today's regional playoffs and the fight for a spot at Worlds, let's take a look back at the highlights from last week as the European LCS closed out their summer split Super Week style. Our first highlight features the 2nd place Fnatic versus the 3rd place Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, this was a pretty premier matchup coming into here because Fnatic had been on such a hot streak. The question was, could they continue? The answer was yes.
It was. It was a game of snipers this time around for Fnatic, and with the help of Xpeke here and Paler's fancy footwork, it wasn't enough.
You'd think if he dodged all the Zerathals, he'd be okay, but it was just non-stop artillery fire. I felt so bad for Super Hot Crew once Fnatic pulled ahead because the single binding lands like this, you're dead.
Yep. You have no idea where that extra damage is coming from, but Fnatic continued to do it.
From the sky.
Able to take down that win quite easily over Super Hot Crew. Our next highlight comes from Alliance versus Gambit. Looking at this game, those 2 in the top lane, or 1 in the top lane, I should say, but Shook made himself present there.
Yeah, this game Alliance was really trying to show why they deserve the #1 seed. One of the few Elises who can throw the cocoon through the minions, but it counts right there.
Threading the needle. Absolutely. It's going to say Shook, just added the O's. We see here a very nice fight coming in for Alliance. They go 3 for 0 on this one, and Gambit's left kind of just running, looking for the rest of the team.
Yeah, Gambit was trying to collapse on Alliance, but because of the fancy plays of Nif, it ended up being the other way around. Wicked is a dragon.
Wicked is a dragon.
He didn't do much that.
The ults throughout the games a little lackluster, but he was always there in the top lane to make sure the team gets the W. Up next, we're going to be looking at Fnatic versus Roccat. And while it didn't have any playoff implications for Fnatic, for Reckless, it was his chance to set an LCS record.
This game had everyone riveted and just stuck right in their seats because the entire game was just Fnatic trying to set up kills for Reckless. That's why they did the blitzcrank.
It was so good. The whole
composition.
Beautiful job. And they get him a few. But when you get this many kills, sometimes even the support starts to get a little too powerful.
I know Reckless needed 13 kills to tie, 14 to win. When this Baron fight was happening, you thought, man, he's going to get it. Yellowster got the triple kill.
Well, Jankos, being the nice guy that he is, finishes off on Elise here, but he does give Reckless the ability to tie out that record. So, not too bad. He doesn't beat it.
It was so close. You saw at the very start of the show, Reckless head in hands for getting the most kills in LCS split history, but he wanted the record.
So close, but so far away. So after 16 games last week, the clouds from exploding Nexuses, or Nexi, either or,
one of the 2,
finally cleared up enough to give us a look at the final standings. Alliance maintained control of the top spot all split. and Fnatic rebounded, as they always do, and picked up second place.
The Super Hot crew climbed into third place last week, just edging out SK Gaming, who actually slid into fourth.
And Millennium went 0-4, but they managed to finish in fifth, just beating out Roccat.
And at the bottom of the table, Gambit defeated the Copenhagen Wolves in Europe's lone tiebreaker match, meaning they will get to pick their opponent in the upcoming spring promotion tournament.
That's right. So let's take a look at the playoff bracket, which will show you when and where the teams will be completing. So take a look. Take it all in. The quarterfinals will kick off today, starting with the Super Hot crew versus Roccat in a best-of-5.
And that first stage of the playoffs will conclude tomorrow when SK Gaming faces Millennium. The winner of the Super Hot crew / Rocket match will face Fnatic next Friday, August 15th. And the winner of SK Gaming / Millennium will also be later on that day of the 15th.
And the third place match will take place on Saturday, the 16th, with the finals happening on Sunday, the 17th, where one team will be named the Summer Champions and will head to the Worlds along with the second and third place squads. And to give us a closer look on the perspective of the playoff scene over in Europe, let's bring in the man who dares to say, I dare say. How's it going, Quick Shot?
Well, dare I say your new haircut and shorter beard is Rivington. Things are great here in Cologne. I'm just looking forward to the quarterfinals.
Well, thank you, Trevor. First up, let's get to business. Let's take a look at Alliance. They want to be the first team besides Fnatic to take a European split title. Why wouldn't they? After holding on to first place through the entire summer, it looks like they could do it.
Yeah, and I actually called Alliance to be the team that would win the summer split all the way back on the very first preview show of summer. Seeing how well they performed over the last 11 weeks, I still feel like this is incredibly possible. They are the first and only team to hold on to that first place seed throughout the entirety of the split. And despite losing 4 games in a row just a couple weeks back, they still ended the split at a 21-7 record, meaning they only lost 3 games total amongst the rest of the weeks. I think the biggest threat to Alliance is their inability to adapt very quickly to patches, because during their losing streak here in summer and earlier in the year in spring split, the players talked about how they were very slow to adapt and unable to just learn what is powerful quickly. And the bad news for Alliance is that the playoffs are going to be on patch 4.13, which is a huge patch. The good news for Alliance is they get to watch the quarterfinals this week, and they have 1 extra week of practice before they have to do battle at Gamescom. So we'll see if that additional time and additional prep work will make my prediction come true and see them be the summer split titles.
All right, well, Alliance won't take to the Rift till the semis. Today we have our first quarterfinal fight with the Super Hot crew versus Roccat. How do you see this one breaking down?
So I think for this series, the Super Hot crew has to be the clear favorites. In general, they've been more capable of picking up wins against all but the top 2 teams. They confidently control the laning phase. They've got great team fights. The only catch for the Super Hot crew is their inexperience in longer series. And with big pressure on their shoulders now, I mean, think back, they only just qualified for the spring split 2 days before the split began. And, you know, since they started in the LCS, they have grown by leaps and bounds, but I still feel like they're the new kids on the block. They still make a lot of mistakes. The other side of the coin is that Roccat are coming into the series with a bunch of players that have been playing together for an extremely long time. They're going to be able to rely on their experience in extended series, and they'll be looking to overcome these young upstarts. In order to do that, they do need to step up their individual ability, because their recent stats and their recent performances have not been strong enough in my mind to actually take down the Super Hot crew.
All right, and the second quarterfinal series kicks off tomorrow with SK Gaming and Millennium battling it out. With the winner facing Alliance next week, what are your thoughts about that series?
Oh, this is so much harder to answer, because if you would ask me before the last week of the summer split, I would have said Millennium are playing better, they're leveling up, and SK Gaming were on a massive downturn. But during that super week, SK went 3-1. They took down both Alliance and Fnatic very convincingly, while Millennium, they lost all 4 games and are actually on a 5-game losing streak. I've got no idea what to predict from this series, because it's definitely a clash of styles. SK Gaming are traditionally more controlling, more calculated, more late game oriented. Whereas Millennium, on the other hand, is a lot more all-in aggression all the time in all the games. So it's going to be this like control style versus this pick style. And we'll see who comes out on top tomorrow in that best of 5 series, because whoever adapts to their opponent's style best will be crowned the champions and go to the semifinals.
All right, and now we're going to ask you to do something that you hate, but only because I love you. Make a prediction. Which teams do you think will finish the split in the top 3 spots and head to Worlds?
You've asked me this so many times, I'm just going to commit this time, Rev. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction. Alliance will be taking first place and be crowned Summer Split champions, going to Worlds with that #1 seed. I then think Fnatic will be in second place, and they'll be representing Europe at Worlds. And for third, I'm on the fence, because I think it's going to be between SK Gaming and the Super Hot Crew. But I am leaning towards the Super Hot Crew, and I'm calling them to take that third and final spot.
Well, we'll definitely hold you accountable to those answers. Thanks for everything, Quick Shot, and we'll see you soon. All right, so out with the shot and in with the shocks. As always, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you back.
It's great to be back, Rev.
All right, so today and tomorrow, the quarterfinals will decide who Alliance and Fnatic will be playing next week. You've been talking to both of the teams now. Have they told you who they would rather face?
Yeah, Rev, indeed, and they have definitely been thinking about it. First up, Alliance's top laner Wicked told me, between SK Gaming and Millennium, I'd rather play Millennium because I respect Kevin so much, and I think of him as one of the best European top laners, and I want the opportunity to defeat him. I also spoke to Fnatic's Expeke, and he said that they would rather face Roccat. He feels that when they scrim with them, they have an easier time than with the Super Hot Crew because of their picks. And he's only afraid of Jankos because of the early game pressure. But he goes on to say that if Roccat doesn't get a hit in that early game, they usually can't win.
And besides asking them about their preferred matchup, you also asked them which 3 teams would be heading to Worlds. Who do they think will make the trip?
Well, Alliance and Fnatic both think that they'll be going, shocker, but they have different opinions about who the third team will be. Wicked says our team and Fnatic will make it to Worlds because we've simply been performing better. The last team will be the Super Hot Crew or Millennium. Those are the teams that have shown the most potential, and whoever got the best practice between them will take that last spot. But Expeke believes that it will be the Super Hot Crew or SK Gaming in third place. He told me that if a team like the Super Hot Crew or SK Gaming has a great day, they can beat anyone, us included.
All right. And when you asked some of the other teams who they thought was going to Worlds, what did they have to say?
Well, for the most part, they agree. And Gambit's Edward actually gave me a nice summary saying Alliance will 100% qualify for Worlds. They were doing so much work before and they won't give up last minute. Even though their season isn't going as good, Fnatic will also qualify because they always do well at the end of the split and the playoffs. The third team will be Roccat or Millennium, not because they are super good, but because other teams are playing worse than them. Now, Rockat's manager Fly feels the same about Alliance and Fnatic, and he also likes Rockat's chances for the third place. He said, "We feel confident we can make it, since we have shown we can do good when we are under pressure and everything is on the line." The young buck from the Copenhagen Wolves says Fnatic and Alliance have consistently shown to be the best teams in Europe, but on the other hand, SK is looking strong and peaking at the right moment. And finally, SK Gaming's Justice agrees, saying 2 of the 3 teams going to Worlds are probably Alliance and Fnatic. The last team can pretty much beat anyone, but with the amount of effort we are putting into our training and looking at the last week performance, we have a pretty good shot at being that third team.
Once again, Shocks, thank you for taking the time to talk to the players and bring us an insider's view. We'll see you soon. So now that we've heard from Shocks and Quick Shot and the teams, we want to hear from you. Who do you think will be the 3 European teams heading to Worlds? Tweet us your answers along with the hashtag LCSPREVIEW, and we'll see how your knowledge compares to theirs. Bonus points if you can tweet it in a foreign accent. Sadly, LCS Fantasies came to an end on Sunday after the last North American game was played. But it was a super week, and that means a metric ton of points, some would say. Now, for a fond look back at the inaugural season of the Fantasy LCS, let's send it over to Jack.
Thank you very much, Riv. And yes, it's true that all good things must come to an end, but thankfully the internet allows us to relive them forever. And last week, we asked you to actually tweet us the super stud of Super Week, and absolutely none of you picked Diamond. Because who could have guessed that? Gambit's jungler actually got back into his groove last week, and the team went 3-1. He also pulled in more points than any other player. You look at this, even Froggen, who was in that ridiculous game at the end of the week, Diamond had more, and Nick was a beneficiary of all of Diamond's sweet, sweet ganks. But looking back at the entire season, the studs were a little bit different. Reckless was the top scorer amongst all players in the LCS. Nice job if you picked him up early on. Kerp as well was the second highest, followed very closely by Koreachan. All these guys were just huge power picks. Sadly, though, if we want to look for duds, we have to go to North America. First up on the top of our dud list is Balls. Not because he had a terrible year, but because he was the #1 top laner drafted in Fantasy LCS amongst all leagues. but his points just never reflected that. He was the 8th highest scoring top laner, putting him right in the middle of the pack. Then we have Lemonation, who was the most picked support player in the draft, but like Balls, he didn't really pay off in the points category. And while Diamond was the super stud from last week, he only had 306 points the entire split, which means more than a third of those points came in just 4 games. He was the 3rd most picked jungler, but finished 12th in points amongst junglers. But we do have sleepers. When you have duds, you always have guys who did better. Selfie was fantastic. He wasn't started in many leagues like a lot of marquee players, but 530 points is pretty spectacular. You also have Voyboy, who was the 6th highest scoring mid laner, just behind Selfie. Curse was kind of in the bottom of the standings as well, all split, but Voyboy's putting up points, and he was a big reason they were able to secure their spot in the playoffs. And then there's also Cotton X. He's basically a stud because he had more points than any other jungler across both regions. Plus, Millennium got a spot in the playoffs, but that doesn't really matter about fantasy. It's all about the points. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed playing the Fantasy LCS because we know we did, and we cannot wait for next season. But right now, we're going to go stealth and listen on Alliance and Millennium during their over-the-top match last week. That's right. Here comes another all chat.
We first pick Fist and we ban CLG.
Yeah.
Oh. Dude, this is going to be so good.
Det går vara CLG, det går vara CLG.
Det går på CLG.
What do we do? TSM? Ja. What do we ban then? Team.
Look at me, guys. Guys, everybody commit and dance.
I'm coming!
Valor to me.
Valor is coming!
I exhaust.
I will strike.
I'm walking up.
Nice. I'm tipping.
Kill them all!
Go again! Get him!
Start it. Wicked. Yes. Det ser not solo play.
Go mid. Push mid.
I'm running the crane,
No,
yeah,
take the train.
Fast. I'm fast, I got boots now.
They TP.
Just take the dragon barrel. Don't fucking die.
Oh, he has AP.
Oh,
I can flash, I can flash.
Wait a bit.
Go for Nif.
Top to Sven. Going top. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Can we dive this guy?
Give me the kill. I'm going in.
I back you up.
You missed.
Can we for Ramos TP though? Can we do Baron team?
No, we can't.
We are.
What? Can you the battle? Oh my boy.
Jerry!
No, Jerry!
Pentakill!
Fight!
Kurva, better the communication than normal LCS. It is!
It's fucking sad.
This is a good game for fancy points, but
Nice guys!
Fucking good, boys!
Finish! Okay, finish.
50 seconds, okay? We can split it.
Go for them! It's a hunt!
Don't group!
Oh fuck man, if you're on.
I got them!
Get them out! Get them on!
My team is fucking useless. My team is fucking useless.
Nice map I would say, man.
I'm fucking well done, boys. High five right here.
It's always amazing to see all the players try their hardest and always have a little bit of fun as well towards the end of the season. In the spring split, we had a record 93 different champions played. So, did we manage to go above and beyond that number this summer? Let's find out in our champion countdown. The newest champion picked this split was Zed when Overpower dove deeper into his champion pool and surfaced with the Master of Shadows. Our players really stepped up with a valiant effort as Zac, Quinn, Warwick, Talon, and Lux were all picked up for the first time this summer. That gave us 6 new faces on the Rift, taking our total to 78. And while we didn't hit the spring record of 93, we always love seeing both old and new faces on the Rift. And personally, I'm still holding out for a top lane Poppy. And we'd like to give a shout out to the 14 of you who correctly tweeted us with Zed as the next champion we would see. Thanks for sending our tweets. Thanks for sending us your tweets along with the proper hashtag. Remember that if you don't use hashtag LCS Preview, then your tweets will rest in pepperonis. And this week our question is, which champion that we didn't see in the summer split will we see in the playoffs? Send your answers to @LOLesports and remember to go aggro on the hashtag LCS Preview. So, the 4.13 patch will be making its way to the LCS beginning with today's EU quarterfinals. We have a special treat to help usher it in.
Patch notes. TLDR. League of Legends patch 4.13 up in this preview show. Elise, this is the Spider-Man version of Lee Sin. Quick, clear, and amazing ganks. Plus points if your opponent has arachnophobia. This makes her a little too good, so some nerfs to Cocoon and Repel should give some other junglers a place to shine. Evelyn, sexy, invisible, and many times the sole reason for reaching the max of 5 wards on the opposing team. She does amazing damage for building tanky, and in the hands of LCS players, she's hard to stop. If they want to do damage, they'll need to build damage thanks to some base damage and ratio adjustments. Lee Sin, the ranged melee tanky DPS assassin, mage, tank, support, and jungler. He just does everything well and dominates the pick and ban phase. To nerf some of his early game aggression, the time on safeguard's been cut in half, and cripple doesn't reduce attack speed anymore. Gragas. Even after the rework, Demon's favorite fat man somehow shines just as much as before. It must be that sexy belly. Barrel roll now does less damage to minions. Drunken Rage now has a mana cost, but has a lower scaling cooldown and a lower damage reduction. Solo lane Lulu looks at your top tier lane LCS picks and laughs at you, then turns you into an animal or a cupcake. So adorable. But what's not adorable is the lack of diversity top lane. The slow decay that scales with AP on Glitter Lance is gone, and Whimsy's move speed buff duration is lower at early levels. Yasuo. Pretty sure this is Voyboy and Bjergsen's favorite AD assassin. He also makes AP mids cry many tears. Wind wall too good. Lower duration on shield, and you won't be able to gain bonus flow from dashing anymore. Ziggs. His wave clear is unmatched. Difficult to siege against. Time for explosive change. I'm sure teams will be happy to know that Ziggs' ult is 2 minutes at all ranks now. Choose your bombs wisely. Cogmaw. Some teams like to play the popular game called Protect the Cogmaw, a game that results in such damage and many winning of team fights when done correctly. To offset Cog's amazing late game, his base health and resistant shred on Q has been lowered. Remember when I said that Lucian was dead when his range was lowered? I couldn't have been more wrong. Prepare to see the rise of CDR Lucian. Even though Relentless Pursuit won't remove slows anymore, good luck catching him after lane phase. His 2-week LCS suspension is over, and it's time for the return of the MVP. Tristana. The other hypercarry marksman just needs to be curved back a little bit, so the slow on rocket jump is lowered, along with the damage on explosive shots active to maybe give other marksmen a chance in the LCS playoffs. Sona just got reworked with cool new effects and ability details that don't just make her an aura poke bot at all phases of the game. Because of her rework, we won't be seeing Sona in the EU playoffs. Braum. People respect the mustache when he supports, but he can be too much to deal with, especially with a well-placed glacial fissure. That's why the slow and knockup duration on primary targets is getting reduced. Thresh. Mad Life's final form. He doesn't have any weaknesses, especially when Morgana isn't being used to counter godlike hooks. Now only one ally can be shielded by Dark Passage, and there's no more damage when breaking more than one wall of the box. Everything else in this patch doesn't matter. This has been TLDR Patch Notes 4.13 for the LCS Preview Show. We'll see you next patch. Oh baby.
Yes! And I think I speak for everyone when I say TLDRs kick some ass. We'd like to give a special thank you to Black and Nola for making that happen. To see all of his amazing videos, you can head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe to him to thank him personally. So now one of the champions we won't be seeing this week, but not due to the 4.13 patch, is the Loose Cannon Jinx.
Yeah, unfortunately a gameplay bug was discovered earlier this week, so she will be disabled in both the LCS and the Challenger Series while that gets sorted out.
That's right, and throughout this summer split, we've seen record-breaking achievements come and go. So let's highlight some of the biggest and baddest moments.
Yeah, first up, it's Reckless, who set 2 records. Not only did he equal ManCloud's record of the most kills in an LCS split from last summer with 167, but what's even more impressive is that he did it while setting another record for not dying. The previous record for least deaths was held by Meteos, who died 29 times in 28 matches last summer. But Reckless died 2 fewer times than he did, which gives him a matching set of bookend records.
That's right. Another record that was toppled was the longest LCS game ever. Back in Week 8 as Complexity faced Curse. I was there for every one of those 80 minutes and 37 seconds, and sometimes I still can't believe that match is over.
In some universes, that game is still going on. But with long games, often we see a lot of broken records. In that same match, Robert X. Lee took the record for most CS in a single game with 719. He kind of became the bane of minions everywhere.
Yeah, we're sounding like broken records. Here's another one. Speaking of CS, 2 mid laners who we'll see next week traded the fastest to 300 CS back and forth throughout the split. First, Peke took it, then Froggen took the title, grabbed it for himself. Then he beat his own record, and then Peke reclaimed it.
That 21:51 mark is just remarkable.
Yeah.
And while the Alliance vs. Millennium game wasn't nearly as long as the Complexity Curse game, it was definitely one for the record books. Both sides went a little bit crazy in this game, and when the dust settled, there were 92 total kills across the Rift. That beats the old total of 69 from the Dignitas vs. COG game last summer, which may have been a little bit more competitive, but it didn't have as many kills.
Some crazy stuff. So the summer split showed us that records aren't just made to be broken. They're made to be shattered, obliterated, and stomped on. Just put it in the ground. Now it's time to reveal the European Summer Split All-Pro team. I know you've been waiting for it. A panel of casters, experts, and the teams themselves voted for this lineup based on player performance for the past 11 weeks. And here they are. In the top lane, it is Soaz. Fnatic's top laner averaged a 4.5 KDA for the split and was named the OP top laner in Europe twice once Fnatic turned their season around starting in Week 7.
And Shook takes the jungle role where he was tied for most kills for an EU jungler, and he debuted Jungle Riven, which caught a lot of people by surprise.
Yes, it did. And for the mid lane, Froggen had the highest KDA, the fewest deaths, and the most assists for a mid as he kept his super team in first place all split long.
And as an AD carry, no surprise here, nobody can ignore those record-breaking performances from Reckless that we mentioned earlier. He also picked up multiple OP titles and also a weekly MVP during the split.
That's right. And then they're keeping that bot lane synergy together with Yellowstar as support. With the most kills and fewest deaths for a support, Yellowstar earned 2 weekly MVP titles and more. And that right there is your 2014 European Summer Split All-Pro team. And looking at that lineup, chat, I think All-Natic would be a pretty fitting name for the squad.
It's no wonder those guys got the top 2 seeds in the European LCS with all those powerful players.
That's right, and they can just keep moving on possibly too. We'll see how they do as the weeks come up. With playoffs on the line, we had a lot of heart-stopping moments across the European LCS this split. So let's take a look back at the plays that had us firing up the defibrillator paddles, or as Dr. Mundo likes to call it, the Penta. At number 5, it was Kerp with the fast fingers on the Fat Man.
And he may well get it. Oh, the Sonic Wave! Barely slammed away there. The ultimate comes out from Codex. He's going to take a lot of the golden airwax this time around. Kerp is running for his life, and he may well be able to get away. He goes back aggressive onto Unlimited. Takes him down. The Summoner Heal comes out, and Kerp gets away with it like a big fat lad.
Coming in at number 4, Selfie saves himself and helps his team pick up the ace.
Oh, gonna throw him away. There is the Sonya's coming down, but the fish is already on him. Knock up onto Selfie. Wild goes himself. Can he get away from this one? Speeding himself up, but has he got the health to get away? Creaton's been focused. Selfie's still alive. Creaton is gonna go down to Impaler, and look at this. Selfie somehow survives it. They turn it around, and Millennium are being destroyed here by the Super Hawk crew. What a turnaround that was.
And at number 3, Yellowstar offers Reckless some safe passage.
Diamond does get in there with the stun. Taunt will go in
Nick
as
can
well.
kill him.
Stun comes out from Nick and Reckless. Is he going to go down? There's a protection from Oriana. Oh, the lantern! He took the lantern. He managed to get away. And they get the shutdown on Nick. Diamond goes down as well. And would you believe it? Reckless there with hardly any help. Punches the air in celebration there. Yellowstar again coming up big to save his life.
Coming in at number 2, Airwalks leapfrogs over Nif and the kick on the frog.
To this one, wow! Airwalks going very deep, but it kicks in Froggen. He gets the kick. Intervention used, and Youngbuck now the focus on that one.
But check this fight out. You can see it all starts off. Airwax goes very deep on this one. Had that Lee syndrome deep in there. Flashes across, kicks Froggen straight back in there.
And your number 1 play this split is Reckless's Penta.
In the background, and Youngbuck is going to get dashed on. Chum the Waters connects on Moonlight, the best target possible. The exhaust was used on Pekka, so damage was reduced. First kill secured by Reckless. We do see that's a double kill as he sidesteps the cocoon, looking for the triple. Reckless is on a triple. He's looking for one Penta. That's the quadra. He's looking for 5. Towers down on the back line. Reckless making the Penta. Gets it. That's a Penta kill. Reckless with a Penta kill in the summer split.
That Penta kill was just awesome, but I do have to mention this myth about Quickshot. He is just blessed with being able to cast Penta kills. Remember, the first Penta kill of the EU playoffs was Genja. Then he came to NA for the playoffs, saw Bjergsen's Penta, and then randomly was doing play-by-play for the only Penta of this split from Reckless. So,
yeah,
thanks, Quickshot.
It seems to happen. I think, actually, it's the fact that I was gone for that one. That would have been my Penta when he came to NA. I never get any Pentas. But we have had quite a few this year, maybe more than we ever saw. The preview show will be right by your side with new episodes from the playoffs through Worlds.
Yeah, but in case you get lonely, head to lolesports.com and click on the preview show header at the top of the page. That's where you can watch past episodes and relive all of your favorite highlights.
That's right, and that does it for this episode of the LCS Preview Show. But before we launch into the European quarterfinals, we wanted to share something with you. Riot has been putting some ideas through research and development, and we're giving you a sneak peek at something new in our last hit.
Coming this fall from the studio that brought you the LCS and the LCS Preview Show. It's the D-Man and DeFicio Show.
I do not believe it!
Believe it, D-Man.
Amazing stuff.
2 men, 1 desk, and a lot of trash talk.
I mean, I'm not quite LCS pro player level, but then again, neither are you anymore.
A lot.
There, man. Going up, looking good.
Is he a good-looking man?
He's a good-looking man.
The Demon and Deficio Show, shoutcasting and blasting.
The birds are great.
This fall, right after new episodes of Shots Fired.
Well, maybe if you can't make it in here, you can try out for some North American team.